Senate. President Pagan is unable to be here. He has asked me to preside over today's meeting. We have a packed agenda, which includes a report by President Crow, who will join us around 3:30 this afternoon. We'll have a report by Provost Gonzalez and Senate committee end-of-year reports. In addition, we have CAPC motions for first reads as well as second reads and action items. So without any further ado, let's start our meeting with the quorum calculation. Maria, are you ready to launch the quorum calculation question?
Yes, launching the first poll. The question reads, please select the campus you represent. A for downtown, B for Polytechnic, C for Tempe, and D for West. Okay, a few more seconds. Make your final selection. This is for voting members only. Ending the poll. And then moving on to the second question. So the second question is asking how you are joining today's meeting: in person at your own campus, in person but not your campus, or via Zoom. Please make your selection. Ending the poll. Samin, we have quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to agenda item number 3, action on minutes. The minutes for our March 28th, 2022 Senate meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the meeting? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. Moving on to the UAC Chair's report. In President Pagan's absence, he has provided a video message for the University Senate that Maria will now air.
Person today, but I'm not able to be there with you in person.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Senate colleagues. I apologize that I'm not able to be there with you in person today, but I'm much gratified by the thought that past President Samin Levinson is back on the bridge and in the captain's chair. I know that you're in very good hands. Thank you, President Levinson, for stepping in at this final meeting of the academic year. I don't know about any of you, but the end of this academic year has come on much more quickly than I was certainly ready for. So as I've thought about what I would like to say to the Senate in my last report, I've reflected over the past 18 years that I've been at Arizona State University. I've had the opportunity to serve in a variety of capacities, but I think my service in the University Senate has been the most interesting. And I say that because I have been reminded during this year that the relationships that we make and keep are just as important to effective faculty governance as any policy or procedure that we have. And making good relationships and keeping them takes work. With a faculty of the size that we have, a university of the size that we are and continue to grow into, it's very likely that there will probably be no issue that we will always see eye to eye on. There will be many discussions that we will have in the year to come and the years to come, where we will be passionate in our positions and in our disagreements with one another, but it's because of our commitment to what we believe is right and good for the common good of the university community that we serve. We don't often talk among ourselves about the virtues of patience, goodwill, and even forgiveness in collegiality. But in this, my final report to the Senate, I ask that you take a moment with me to reflect upon ACD 204-01, which is our faculty code of ethics. Under the subheading Responsibilities to Colleagues, it lists the ethical standards that we are to strive for. Among them are to show professional courtesy and respect for others in the exchange of criticism, and to strive to be objective during our professional judgments. I refer to this because we still have much work to do in the coming year, particularly when it comes to general studies. In my view, the hardest work lies before us as we strive to turn ideas and discussions into actual policy. If the past is prologue, we will have disagreements over process and procedure as we move forward in this work. And there may very well be disagreements with our faculty colleagues who are now serving in administrative roles. But if there are any words of wisdom that I can leave with you from my experience in university service, is that if we can remain true to the standards of professional collegiality, so that even in disagreement, we maintain respect and courtesy for one another, and a commitment to fact and to the aspirations of objective judgment, I believe that we can come out of this process a stronger university community. To that end, it's been my privilege this past year to work closely with Provost Nancy Gonzalez, Vice Provost Deb Clark, and Vice Provost Ann Jones. Thank you for engaging with the Senate with genuine openness, good faith, and a commitment to listening and to answer our many, many questions that we've had. Thank you for this opportunity that we've had to work together. President Crow, thank you for the continued respect and engagement that you have shared with the Faculty Senate and with the elected leadership of the Senate. Finally, to my Senate colleague, Penny Dolan, who is the next University Senate President, and to all of the members of the University Academic Council and the Executive Committee, I offer to you my gratitude, my well wishes, and my sincere thanks for your willingness to serve together with me in this important work. I look forward in the coming years to continuing to work with the Faculty Senate in whatever capacity that I can serve. And I look forward to working with each of you and to keeping our relationship strong. Thank you.
Well, that was wonderful to hear from President Pagan. All right, since we do have a packed agenda, we will move right along. I just have some brief remarks. Campus assembly elections are now open. I invite senators to please remind the faculty in your units to participate in these elections, which will be open until through April 27th, which is this week. This is an opportunity for faculty to participate in the governance process at ASU, and keeping in mind that service in the University Senate is a vital part of the healthy functioning of our university. The senator spotlight this month is Mark Manfredo. Senator Manfredo is in the Morrison School of Agribusiness in the W.P. Carey School of Business at the Polytechnic campus. He has been at ASU for 23 years, and this is his second year serving as a senator. He believes in the importance of faculty service at all levels. The Senate has allowed him to represent and inform his academic unit and also serve the university more broadly. He currently serves on the Senate Personnel Committee and has found it to be insightful in terms of better understanding and appreciating issues impacting faculty across the university. He noted that serving on the Senate really helps to better understand the scope, the complexity, and diversity of ASU. Senator Manfredo, thank you for your ongoing service to the University Senate. Next, we'll move to the Tech Talk for April. This month it is with Steve Salick, Clinical Assistant Professor in the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. You can read about his experience using Adobe Creative Cloud Express on the Senate website under the Senate blogs. We will now move on to the report by Executive Vice President and Provost Nancy Gonzalez. Provost Gonzalez, if you come to the podium, we look forward to hearing your remarks. Thank you.
Like Eduardo, it's surprising to me that we are at the end of the academic year. That came quickly. And since, okay, better? Yep. Yep. Okay, so since this is the last meeting of the year, I did want to take some time basically to say thanks and to reflect just briefly on my first academic year as provost. And I believe we'll be hearing from Michael Crow today as well. And so we'll reserve the time for that presentation. It is such a privilege really to hold this position and to lead the academic enterprise at this time in our evolution. 2 years into a very long running pandemic and the challenges that presented for all of us, and a time when our ambitions as a new American university and a public enterprise university have not slowed one bit, but are even greater than ever. I've had a lot to do and a lot to absorb in the 10 months that I've been in this position, but it has been unequivocally a year of success on many fronts as we navigated through many issues and complexities, yet kept our focus on what matters most. And to the point of what matters most, we will graduate in just a few weeks, the largest graduating class ever in the history of Arizona State University. Nearly 19,000 students will earn over 20,000 degrees. It will be the most diverse graduating class we've ever seen, with the largest number of first generation and Pell eligible students, the largest number of international students and military affiliated students, and graduation rates for Hispanic students that are 10% higher than ever before. For a university that fundamentally measures ourselves not by who we exclude, but by who we include and how they succeed, we need to recognize this as the most important marker of our collective success. And our graduating students persevered through many difficulties and received an outstanding education despite 2 years of fluctuating modes of delivery and fluctuating mask requirements and being on campus, off campus, and a combination thereof. We need to recognize all of the work that they've done and all of the work particularly that our faculty and staff provided and the support that they provided to enable them to reach this milestone in their lives. I want to thank you all for trusting us through this process to make the right decisions for you, as we did make decisions in the fall, returning the entire campus with masks, which was not necessarily an easy thing to do. We had some struggles that we had to deal with in many classes across campus, but we were able to achieve that goal. And then again in the spring, when we decided to take the masks off. So thank you for trusting us to make these decisions for you and for supporting the goals even when you did not agree with these decisions. As we managed to keep 165 students moving forward in academic year 21-22, we also saw tremendous growth and building of new initiatives that will enable us to achieve even more of our goals in the future. So, and it would be impossible really to summarize all of the major achievements that we've seen just in the last 9 months, but a few for illustration. We opened 2 entirely new schools, several new buildings, and 2 new locations for ASU. We hired 5 new deans, and we're in the process of hiring 3 more, and numerous faculty. I'm happy to say that the tenure track faculty that we've been doing, where we've been putting a big focus on inclusive hiring, has produced so far hires that are 50% female and 35% from underrepresented minority populations. We welcomed 63 Afghan women to come study with us at ASU. We started centers of excellence on all 4 campuses. We launched a process to improve general education after more than 40 years of having considered what general education should be for Arizona State University. I agree with Eduardo Pagan, President Pagan, that the hard work is yet to come, but we have started the process. We also launched 13 new international affiliates through our partnership with Sintana, And there again, the benefits and the work in that front are yet to come. They will allow us to extend the reach of our charter even further and enrich our global outreach. We implemented flexible working arrangements for our staff and launched a new modality of teaching that we now call ASU Sync. We have also been working to address concerns brought forward by faculty and faculty senators over the past year. I want to thank all of you in the Senate for your leadership, for serving in these roles. It's been more important than ever to have the people who can bring forward the concerns of the community during these last couple of years. So thank you for your dedication and thank you for keeping us focused on issues that we will need to address. I assure you that all of your concerns have been heard. And I know you're still waiting to hear from us on some of those. We're working through the details and we'll address those as soon as we are able. Thanks to the UAC and especially Eduardo Pagan, who has been an inspiring leader as your faculty president. I look forward to working next year with Penny Dolan in this role and with all of you as we work together to achieve the goals of the ASU Charter. And I know we are waiting for President Crow, so I'm happy at this point to take questions if that would be helpful.
Thank you so much, Provost Gonzalez. Truly an accomplishment. What a remarkable year to have our largest graduating class. And I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say there were 165,000 students enrolled at ASU?
There are 165,000 unique students enrolled in ASU courses over the course of the year.
That's phenomenal.
Now, at any one time, it varies, but if you count fall, spring, and summer, and you count online and in person, that's the number. Yep.
And before we go to the campuses for questions, I want to thank you for your leadership of the academic enterprise and for a very successful first year as university provost. I know that we all look forward to your continued leadership.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on for questions for Provost Gonzalez. Let's start with the downtown campus. President Uriri Glover, are there questions for Provost Gonzalez?
Yes, we have a question. Due to things opening up related to COVID, do you think it will affect our enrollment in the future?
I didn't hear the first part. Do I think that COVID?
Yes, since things are changing now and
Yeah.
everything is opening up, is related to COVID. Do you think that our enrollment will increase?
Yeah, I mean, what's been remarkable is that our enrollments never declined. And in fact, they have continued to increase over time. And we're looking now at yet another increase, and we expect the fall enrollment to be greater than probably at about 4% greater than we've seen in previous years. And so, we are seeing this in the context of many other universities reporting declines in enrollment. So, I think we can attribute this to many things, including the success of our programs and what we offer here at ASU, and the fact that it continues to attract so many students in multiple modalities. We're guessing that we'll be at about 80,000 in-person students and roughly about that much for online as well.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to the Polytechnic campus. Are there questions?
Have any questions here, but thank you, Provost Gonzalez, for all that you've done this last year.
Thank you.
Thank you,
that.
President Kaiselka. And then we'll move to the Tempe campus. Are there questions from the Tempe campus?
There do not appear to be any questions from Tempe. And I also want to thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for doing such a bang up job in your first year.
Thank you, President Haglund. Do we have any questions from the West campus? President Burleson.
Well, no, there are no questions from here, but I also would like to thank Nancy Gonzalez. Kind-hearted and
I think she's saying really nice things. I'm sorry, I can't hear them.
You're muted, Mary. We missed the second half of your comments.
I have no, I'm not in, she says we're muted.
Yeah, we're not muted.
We hear you now. We hear you now.
So I just wanted to thank you, Nancy. I feel bad that everyone else got there first, and it seems like I don't have any ideas of my own, but I really do thank you for your openness and your willingness to listen. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Do we have any
much.
questions on Zoom?
We do. We have first Senator Bo Marsic. Sarah, please unmute.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Provost Gonzalez, thank you for coming to talk to us. I had two questions about the two initiatives that have been mentioned, either on the Senate floor this year or that you just mentioned right now. The first one is, my understanding is there was attention to NTT faculty issues being undertaken by your office, and I wondered if you could give an update on that. And my second question was, with respect to diversity hiring, would you be able to speak to whether any of those diversity hires targeted hiring scholars with disabilities to add to the ASU faculty? Thank you.
Thank you for those two great questions. So on the non-tenure track faculty, we have been, we heard your concerns and we completely understand the concerns of that very important part of our community. Actually, it's vitally important to us, and we are not at the point where we're exploring many options, and we're not yet at the point where we can tell you exactly what we're going to do. And so I'm waiting until all the pieces fall into place. Some parts of what we're trying to do actually are a little bit out of our hands, and we've had to work through the Arizona Board of Regents to get, permissions and agreements, et cetera. And that's complicated because it doesn't just impact ASU. So it has to be all three universities and all three provosts. So all of us have been working together, and we hope to, be able to address those concerns. Certainly, since everybody goes away for the summer, certainly right at the beginning of the fall semester. So, and on the second question, I do know that so a lot of our hiring that is focused on diversity has come in many different forms, which is exactly how you want it to be. So some of it has been through the presidential postdoc program. Some of it has been through the LIFT initiative and the cluster hiring, where we're sort of identifying particular target hires who help diversify us in important ways. But more importantly, a lot of it has come through the standard hiring process. And the reason we need these other special programs is because the standard hiring processes were not giving us what we needed. So it's been really gratifying to see the robust level of engagement in how do we really think about who our faculty need to be and how we get there. Within that, we do have some colleges that are specifically recognizing and looking for faculty who bring expertise in disability studies and who themselves represent that important group. So it is happening, not through a targeted way, but it is nonetheless happening. But we don't necessarily document that, but you're reminding me that that's probably something we should also pay attention to, is so that we fully understand the ways in which, we are creating the inclusive environment that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions on Zoom?
Yes, one more question. This is from Senator HLT Kwan. Please unmute.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Provost Gonzalez. Could you elaborate on the ASU Sync modality? Will this modality be a permanent feature of ASU education?
Yes, it will be, but it isn't Zoom. By that, I mean, we use Zoom and we have used Zoom as we needed to as an emergency measure. And we used it throughout this year in particular, as people needed to follow quarantine protocols. We would flip courses and et cetera. ASU Sync is the intentional, pedagogically sound use of this remote synchronous technology to deliver new courses and entire degrees in that modality. And we're selectively using it in places where it makes good sense from both pedagogical perspective and also in terms of our ability to reach populations who would benefit from attending our courses in these ways. And we also expect that as we move into the future, we're going to see some some mixed models and hybrid models where you might have some use of sync along with online. Actually, we already see that in one spot right now, which is our online students have been able to apply to the NB Honors students for the first time ever. And they attend the Honors College courses like the Human Event course using Sync, which is like a wonderful way to be inclusive and make those opportunities available to them. So yes, it is a permanent feature, but it's an intentional feature as we move forward.
Thank you.
No more questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Provost Gonzalez. Well, I see that President Crow has now entered the room. So now we will move on to our report from President Michael Crow. Welcome to our final Senate meeting of the year. And so we're looking forward to an update on where we are with current standings of the university and what some of the plans are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see some of you here and many of you on the screen. It's nice to see those that are in the room. I can actually see their faces. And so it's great, some of you. So it's great to see you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's fair to say that as the American interaction with the pandemic moves from pandemic to endemic and from endemic to outbreak, which is what our hope will be. That is, those are the three levels of this virus that we've been dealing with. As we move to the endemic phase, the university is performing and operating at probably its highest level of performance in its history. Largest number of graduates, most diverse set of graduates, most significant research activities we've had going on, the largest number of people that we've reached as learners outside of the normal degree granting programs of the institution, hundreds of thousands of people. We trained 15,000 teachers, K through 12 teachers during the pandemic. We engaged with tens of thousands of additional learners from their homes, not affiliated with ASU in the past, all through Utah, Arizona, Southern California, particularly those areas, but also across the country and across the world. We have seen every unit, I think without exception, has really risen to the occasion, has really stepped up. And this would mean even, with colleagues down with COVID or their families affected by COVID or their communities and their schools. I mean, I think, people pitching in, making things happen. I mean, it's really been something to behold. And I've been very proud to be a part of an institution so committed to educational outcomes, student successes, and community success. That's not uniformly true either in the university community. More broadly, there were some institutions that basically stopped operating. It's been very complicated among many groups. I mean, I was a person who felt that we were an essential institution, an essential enterprise, an essential organization, and we demonstrated our ability to work through this. All groups of the institution, from the teaching faculty to the colleagues that are doing research to the people that are working on the epidemiological analyses of COVID, all stepped up. We still produce every single day epidemiological studies of what's going on statewide, countywide, zip code wide, ASU wide, staff wise, student wise, and have a very deep understanding of what's happening. So, I mean, all in all, we're doing okay financially, more than okay. We were one of the only institutions in the country not to lay off staff, furlough staff, or reduce wages. That was important for us. We have wage enhancement packages in the works for the second year in a row, and it's been a long time since we've been able to do that. We are accelerating our wages for those that work on an hourly basis. As the cost of living has adjusted, those wages go up with that as the general cost of living is increased. We have our students at a very high hourly wage also. In fact, just to remind everyone, we weren't required to do that by state law. In fact, we were exempted from that by state law and decided to go with the state's minimum wage for our student workers, of which we have thousands, more than 10,000 actually. And so there's a large number of people that are affected by all of that. We are involved in every way that we can in helping refugees from Afghanistan, refugees from Ukraine, We have students from Ukraine and Russia attending ASU at the same time, and we're working with both of these groups of individuals, individually and collectively. We do have about 60 Afghan women who came to us from the Asian Women's University, where they had been temporarily located in Bangladesh after fleeing Afghanistan, then later relocated at Camp Stevens in, I think that's the name of it, in Wisconsin. They now are here with us at ASU. They're all engaged as students pursuing degrees, and we're advancing them with philanthropic resources and university resources towards hopefully what could emerge as a teachers academy for women associated with Afghani women who are now spread around the world, really. So we've got all of that going on. Relative to Ukraine itself, we're obviously partnered with American University of Kyiv, which is just being stood up. And that's one of our partner universities through the Sintana relationship that we have. And so some folks had been there. In fact, there were ASU folks and Sintana folks there until just as the war began to get underway, and they're looking to get things back underway as rapidly as possible. I think they're hoping for some programs starting again in June and then accelerating into the fall semester. So we're excited about that also. Going forward, things in applications are at record levels, beyond anything that we ever could have imagined. The demand for what we have either on campus or online or in sync or whatever we want to call the third modality is greatly accelerating across many dimensions. We've got continuing and expanding diversity of the student body, continued and expanding diversity of the faculty. I think we just hired our, 61st Native American faculty members. So we're very excited about that in terms of how we have evolved and are continuing to evolve. The Los Angeles facility is now up and running in downtown Los Angeles. It's available to any of you and your units as a facility to have programs, carry things out, work things. You got to work through your deans and your directors and the provost's office. Washington facilities up and running and fully functional. Also, the university acquired through merger the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences to make up for an area of science where we were not as capable as we wanted to be, and this is ocean sciences. I think this body has in the Senate approved the School for the Future of Ocean Sciences. I think that's occurred, yeah. Right, so we now have 4 schools in the new College for Global Futures, and the School for Ocean Sciences is also connected to the faculty level folks who are coming from the Bermuda Institute for Ocean Sciences. So ASU now with MIT and Columbia and UC San Diego and the University of Washington and Texas A&M and other universities has an ocean-going research vessel partnership, which then fleshes out some of our ocean-going activities. I won't walk through obviously a long laundry list of all the things that we've got going on, other than to just say thank you to all of you who have kept the Senate running, kept the issues under consideration, considered the matters before the body during all of this. And we use technology to our advantage here by still being able to get together regardless of what I call was the bug condition out there. I will say relative to COVID that we are in the endemic phase. That doesn't mean we stay in the endemic phase. There are scenarios where things get better, and there are scenarios where things stay the same, and there are scenarios where things get worse. We're hoping for better, but we are down to a handful of cases among the student body and among the staff, particularly the staff. Now we have less testing and we have lots of people that are asymptomatic. But if folks are vaccinated, and I hope that you've made the choice, it is your choice. I hope you've made the choice to get vaccinated. Your statistics are in your favor. If you are vaccinated, the impact of the virus on you individually is much less than if you're not. And that's just the facts of the matter, as they say. I got my 4th booster, I think my 2nd booster, but the 4th shot as soon as I was able, since I'm over 50. And so I said, I'm over 50, I'd like to get that shot. And so I took that shot, and I felt it a little bit in my arm and went away the next day. So I assume that I'm protected for a little bit longer going out there. So with that, I'll open it up for comments or questions from anyone.
Thank you, President Crow. We're not quite ready for the fourth booster yet, right?
Some of are younger.
Right. That's right. That's right. If I may, I do have a quick question. I think it's fascinating, the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences and the new school. Will that incorporate some of the research interests that we've also had in Hawaii?
Well, so those things are interested. So we have six faculty in Hawaii. We have a research airplane there that's unique on the planet that uses lasers to study the health of coral reefs and lasers to study the carbon holding capacity of forests. So the group that's there, the research center that's there under Professor Greg Asner, is split between Arizona and Hawaii, and it is an ocean-centric activity going on there in Hawaii. And the group that's in Bermuda really give us a multiplicity of venues, if you will, scientific venues in managing and understanding the oceans. Not that we manage them, but managing our understanding of the oceans, because they're central to the climate outcome for those of us that are living on the land. Yes. Oh, nice to see you. You're disguised. Now I see you. Yes. And the director of the School of Ocean Futures is sitting right here, Professor Noor. So we're very excited. And do you want to add anything? Yes. All right. Well, now you have a better now you have a better negotiating position. So. Yeah. Yes. 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 When I at that dedication tried to get people to understand some of the limits of academia and some of the things we should have been doing and maybe hadn't been doing and needed to be doing. And so, yes, so they're connected. These things are all connected. Yes.
Very good.
And I don't know where, I mean, the faculty will evolve over time. The faculty will be connected to other faculty. So we're very excited about all that, including schools not in the College of Global Futures. So the School of Life Sciences in the college, the School of Earth and Space Exploration in the college. There'll be joint appointments and other appointments. School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning. There's 3 schools that connect to the School of Ocean Futures also.
Thank you, President Crow. I do have one more question before we open it up. We're fortunate here that we have moved into the endemic phase of COVID, but in thinking about what's happening globally and seeing that in some other regions of the world, they're moving back into lockdown, thinking about some of the political tensions that we're seeing in Ukraine, how do you think that that's going to impact the return of some of our international students?
Well, so international students that are here won't be returning to places that are unstable. They'll just be staying with us through the summer. So that's what happened during the pandemic. So we would expect that to happen again. In terms of new recruits from places that are locked down, like Shanghai, or it looks like Beijing is going that direction also, that could affect things. What we found is that the fantastic staff that we have recruiting international students just sort of rolled with the waves. And so as the number of students from China went down, the number of students from other places went up. And so they're out there, they're recruiting, they're in the field, they're responding. But to your deeper question, which is, you know, where we are with a new war in Europe by an aggressive fascist dictator called Putin, in case you wondered what I thought about him. And so, yes. And so, you know, we're entering hopefully at the end of the day, the next phase of the democratization of Europe. So Ukraine, the people are speaking with moral authority. They're speaking with their lives and with moral authority. Moral authority wins in the long run. If you look at history, the arc of history leans to moral authority. And so, you know, I'm hopeful that the needless deaths can be brought to an end and some other sort of solution can be brought. But we're all need to be aware of the kinds of instabilities that lie ahead. In China, as you know, the vaccine efficacy was very low there. There hasn't been an openness to other vaccines that may have higher levels of efficacy. I don't know what's going on in that realm, but what it does mean is that none of these things are quick problems and they go away and then they're solved. I mean, these are ongoing, long-term things. And I'll just say that one of the reasons that we partnered with Centana was that in the places where Centana is attempting to help build universities in Costa Rica, in Egypt, in Ukraine, in Turkey, in Vietnam, and other places, those are places that, are trying in different ways to move down paths toward the future, and we're trying to be helpful. And so Ukraine would be one of those. And so we knew when we went into this, I mean, the American government wanted us there. The interest in Ukraine wanted to build a new university. Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union until 1991. It just emerged slowly as an independent country. It had a revolution in 2013. It was then invaded shortly after that. It's been very unstable. So they're trying to figure out how to build universities, how to move the country forward, how to move forward in new ways. And we're a part of that with what our technology and our faculty and our systems and our tools can help the American University of Kyiv. I don't know if I'm using the Russian or the Ukrainian accent, but probably because I can't say what I used to call it, which was Kiev. Apparently that was wrong. That was the American accent. And so that's why we did that. That's why we were involved in this project. That's why we are involved in this project.
Okay, let's see if there are questions for President Crow. We'll start with the downtown campus. President Uriri Glover.
No questions from the downtown campus.
No questions from downtown. Next
I'm
is
sure
the
Provost Gonzalez answered all of the questions.
expertly. Let's move to the Polytechnic campus. President Kaiselka.
I have a question in terms of kind of like what is the next level? A couple of years ago, when we were dealing with the pandemic, we were asked, as faculty to do whatever we could to keep the university going, to really engage with our students and to try and do whatever it takes to make sure that the university could prosper in a very stressful time. So now it seems like we've been through that, and we know that we have a high anticipated, enrollment coming our way again this next fall. So what is like the next, what's the next step or the next level that you're looking at that we should be thinking about as we look forward to another academic year?
Well, good question. I appreciate that. So, we're still looking in the case of the Polytechnic campus and the West campus to grow those campuses to the scale that they're designed to operate at, which is about 3 times the number of students that are presently on either of those campuses, not immediately, but over years. And we're doing that because while it might seem that we're large and massive with our on-campus activities, it turns out that we're underserving this community. So the research grade universities in Metro Los Angeles, Metro Seattle, Metro New York City, Metro Miami, others are able to do more, handle more, have more students than we are. And so we still have increasing demand, but we're not quite able to meet that demand yet, which means we will need new schools, more programs, more faculty, more technology, all those things. And so that's not something that happens next year, but it is something that happens over the next many years. And Provost Gonzalez and others are working on how we will evolve our programs, our systems, our tools, our technologies, our faculty, our designs, working with you all so that we can meet this demand, which I see as very, very positive. So we have set out, and I've specified this, that, we're looking to grow the on-campus university population to the 90,000s or so, while we then continue to grow the online student population to around 140,000, which is easier to do because you don't have to build infrastructure for that. And so it does mean new residence halls. We're planning a new residence hall for the West campus. We're planning additional facilities for the Polytechnic campus, a new school for manufacturing and network engineering, which we have a new director of coming in for the Polytechnic campus, new expansion of the activities related to the innovation district on the Polytechnic campus, and things that are being thought about and talked about and possibly initiated there. So right now it's still sort of slow and steady, but picking up speed in terms of what we're doing, particularly on the West Campus and the Polytechnic campus for the physical aspects of the university.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, let's move next to the Tempe campus. I think that we might have a question or two.
We do have a question from Tempe, President Noor.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Crow, I appreciated when you talked about salary raises for student workers.
Mhm.
And graduate students are another group of quite vulnerable students. Just the other day, one of my students told me that her landlord is going to raise the rent by $200 a month. And, she cannot absorb that on her graduate student salary. So, and of course, $200 a month is not going to be a raise that will be feasible for a graduate student
Right.
salary.
Right.
But I mean, it's increasing rents is a huge problem, I think.
Well, what I can say about graduate students is that they're on our list also. So there are no constraints relative to what units pay graduate students. And I will say that the provost and I have spoken about this. We're often surprised at the units not taking up this action more unilaterally on their own. And they say, well, where do we get the money from? Well, that of course is why you're the unit director. and so these are the extra salaries for the more challenging decisions and the more responsibility is for a reason. And so having said that, though, we're also looking at what we can do centrally to add to the pot for graduate students. And so we have spoken with the Graduate Student Association and with others in the leadership of the university. And so we know we need to work on this. This is probably not worth mentioning, but I will mention that when I got here, this is one of the strangest places that I'd ever heard of as a university. They didn't pay the tuition of students here. So we ate in 1 year a $44 million adjustment to be able to pay the tuition of graduate students, which wasn't being paid at the time. Now that might not be seen as a big thing, but I remember it because I had to find the $44 million somewhere in the operating budget of the institution. And the reason I say that is that that was a decision put on me and it had to be made. The individual departments, I think we're able to say that they're free to, within market parameters, advance their compensation packages for their teaching and research assistants as they wish. And it may mean that you have a different configuration of them. It may mean that you have less of something else and graduate students that are making more. These are hard decisions, but there's no prohibition. There's every unit can set its own salary. Every unit can set its own types of graduate students and so forth and so on. And then when units need more resources, then we have ways in which units can get more resources also. And so there are pathways and mechanisms. There's ways that you can get temporary resources while you're building up your resources, or ways you could get support from your dean or the university, for a few years to get something going, and then in a proposal type modality. So all of those things are possible. It's not going to be possible for us to adjust to every perturbation that's occurring in the market. What I want to make sure is that we're paying the absolute best salaries that we can pay, or compensation that we can, stipends is the better phrase, for graduate students, so that we're attracting and keeping graduate students. Many of us were graduate students once. And so we know the complexities of living as a graduate student. It can be very complex. And then I also have asked our facilities folks to think about something we never had before, which was graduate student housing. So our residence halls, what we call residence halls in university apartments, we will make them available to graduate students. Typically, graduate students, at least up to this point, haven't wanted to live there because they wanted, more freedom, or they wanted to live in a house or something else. And so I'm like, okay, when I was at Columbia, the university owned 7,000 apartments. And those 7,000 apartments were filled with students, graduate students, and faculty. If we have to do that here, we'll do that here also. Meaning we'll take the capital and find a way to produce housing which is less expensive, while we will also be perhaps not making people happy in the real estate market. But we have to take care of our own here, and so we're willing to do that. But if we do something like that, not to make too long of an answer, somebody has to show up. So if we spend $150 million on an apartment building to house graduate students, and no graduate students show up. Well, it won't be me standing here at this podium anymore because that will be an error that the system gets rid of me over. So rightfully so.
I'm fairly confident graduate students will show up.
Well, it takes a while to build these things and design them also, but
I do have a question also. I just wanted to ask clarification on the point about growing the West and Polytechnic campuses. Sounds great. I assume you meant in person
yeah.
because the online space, you don't have to be
No,
in.
I mean in person. So when so on campus, 90,000-ish plus, which would almost all that growth would have to go onto the West and the Polytechnic campus for physical students on campus. Both of those sites are capable of handling growth. The community needs more access to what we're offering. They're both fantastic locations, both underutilized in terms of, if you look at the whole amount of land that's available and so forth. And so we're not, online is a whole other thing.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that the online space, sometimes we find ourselves competing with each other, and it's not necessarily healthy for the different degree programs.
I understand that. And we've talked about that before. And so we shouldn't be, because it turns out that we are underserving this community for 17 to 30-year-olds who want to be here with us as undergraduate students or graduate students. In fact, our master's students on campus have gone down dramatically and gone up dramatically online. That's not necessarily good. And so we're looking for units at unit levels. And I've talked to Provost Gonzalez about this. How do we do better at that than we are doing? And that requires, we have a number of things we're trying to work through. That requires unit level marketing. That requires unit level pursuit of students. That requires, flexibility. We also have, so I've had, let me give you an example. So I've had people come to me and say, I graduated from ASU with a 3.2 in, I'll just pick a humanities discipline, and I was not admitted to a master's degree program at ASU. And the logic given to the person was, well, we didn't know if you're going to go for a PhD. Now that's an archaic logic. And so people want access to master's degrees, and believe me, our own graduate with a 3.2, notwithstanding other factors, but just at that point alone, should be admitted to that program. There should be even, like we have for undergraduate admission to ASU from community colleges, automatic admission. Well, if you do this in this degree program, then you're admitted into the master's program, and here's your special scholarship and so forth and so on. We have that 4-1 programs and others in some units, but not in others. And so we're also defeating ourselves to some extent. I went to a graduate school as a PhD student. I already had my master's, but the master's students came in. The entire degree program was 13 months, start to finish. It was the #1 program in the country. It's either #1 or #2 now. It's a very, very successful program. 13 months. And so I talked about, what about some 13-month programs at ASU? And there are a couple here and there, but not very many. Do you remember how many non-2-year programs we have, Nancy? It's a handful. And so we need creativity, we need marketing, we need ways to bring in our own undergraduate students into these master's programs face to face with us on campus. Absolutely. I agree with that completely.
Thank you, Dr. Crow. No further questions from Tempe.
President Crow, at the latest ABOR meeting, there was a report on the state of athletics. And I thought you gave a very thoughtful response to it as a series of problems here. And I wonder if you could talk about that just a little bit here.
So at the national level, we've entered a particularly complicated moment in national collegiate level sports. So we have complexities coming from a number of lawsuits and other actions before the National Labor Relations Board, which has then increasingly driven certain forces to the notion of considering student athletes to be employees. I'm opposed to considering them as employees because then they're not student athletes, but I'm not opposed to expanding scholarships to the full cost of attendance, which their scholarships are prohibited from being that. So they can't work, most of the athletes, in jobs because they're spending so much time in athletics, and then they don't have resources to do other things. So they should be getting scholarships for that. There's a second issue that's going on now, which is called name, image, and likeness, which is something that's now being allowed, wherein, for instance, we just lost an athlete from one of our teams to another team because boosters of the other team promised that athlete $500,000 of support to move to that other school, not even being recruited officially by the other school. That's called name, image, and likeness. I will support you from private sector resources, and both the NCAA is presently allowing this, the court is presently allowing it, and it's going to create massive disruption. It already is in college athletics. There's a high school student that has an $8 million pledge for their name, image, and likeness if they go to play at a certain other university because the supporters of that. So to me, this is the beginning of, I don't know how to say this other than taking huge disruptors and dropping them into college sports and hoping that it survives with some probability that it won't. And so I am, as a university president on the Pac-12 President's Council, arguing for the maintenance of amateur sports, the maintenance of college sports with scholarships and so forth and so on. And that's at the national level. All these things are happening at the same time. They're causing huge disruptions. There are multiple lawsuits, multiple initiatives, multiple attacks against college sports, multiple issues within the NCAA. The NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, has 1,200 members across 3 divisions, tiny little schools like Sterling College in Sterling, Kansas, to massive universities like Ohio State or ASU, completely different kinds of institutions, all trying to be self-governing. If you've ever been in a homeowners association, it has many of the features of a homeowners association. So all bad. And it's been very difficult to solve the differences between what are called this is more than you want to know, but the Power 5 conferences, the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12, those 5 conferences and the 60 plus teams that are in those conferences. They play sports at one level, including us. Others play sports at another level. Well, many people are saying, well, why don't we just play sports at that other level, that sort of Ivy League level? Or at a different level. So there's huge debates going on now and all kinds of arguments. And that's not even withstanding what's going on at ASU, where we've had some misconduct in the football team, which then has gotten us into trouble. That's investigation is still underway. So I can't really say much about that, but you might note that there are some people that used to work for us who don't work for us anymore. So that should speak for itself. And so as well as other things, when the investigation is done. And so set that aside as conduct, cheating's not accepted. On the other side, we're going to have to decide what we want the NCAA to be, what we want these conferences to be, how we want them to work. And this notion of money for the athletes, longer discussion, and I could come back with others and we could talk before the Senate about this, but it is rapidly swirling toward a mess. We also have the transfer portal where universities can't dismiss athletes once they're on scholarship, but they can leave at will to another university once you could play at ASU for 4 years, and with 5 years of eligibility, you might go play for, let's say, the University of Kansas and help, which one of our players did, and then help them win the national championship, which they did. All fine for him. I don't have any issue with that, but it's not so good for us, having been the initial investor and supporter and trainer and teacher and so forth. Now, in the long run, it's the empowerment of the individual athlete that's occurring here, which I think is worth noting. But how are we going to manage all of this? And what does it mean? And what does it mean to have a team? And how would that work? Now, just on the good side, ASU track and field, ASU swimming 4th in the country in the NCAA tournament, ASU wrestling 4th in the country, women's golf, fantastic, women's triathlon, 5 years in a row as national champions, just unbelievable athleticism going on. New women's basketball coach who's come in, who's going to be driving our team forward. So lots of exciting things that are going on. And oh, by the way, no one could go to any of our games for a couple of years, so that might have hurt us along the way also.
Thank you. It doesn't appear as though there are other questions from the Tempe campus. So let's move to the West campus. President Burleson, are there questions from the West campus?
We do have a question from Senator King.
Dr. Crow, I have a comment rather than a question, and I wrote it down so that I speak eloquently. The first time I heard you use the word failure was in your remarks prior to Vice President Al Gore address to the 22nd Democratic and Climate Change Conference at ASU during Earth Week. You said universities have failed society relative to climate change. I would like to thank you for being honest, for inviting Al Gore, for believing in the power of science, and for saying ASU is committed to being part of the solution rather than part of the problem. As you know, Quest was a 10-year funded NSF program at ASU that came up to an end this year. And as Vice President Gore said, well, he should have been president at one time. And as Vice President Gore said, solar is the solution. So I do hope that you and ASU as an institution and ABOR as well will continue to support solar cell research at ASU, because as we see the dependence of Europe on the oil and the gas resources in Russia have really shifted the balance of power, and all of a sudden it seems like Europe is paying for the war. So I really would like us to continue being committed to solar energy. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that comment and for noticing what I do take the time to sort of think about what I'm going to say. So I appreciate that. And then on the solar side, you know, we'll soon be off of fossil fuels completely at ASU. And we are expanding and evolving all of our activities related to renewable energies of all types. And so we're working on all of those fronts. So I appreciate that.
And I have one more comment, President Crow. We had in the last 2-3 weeks, 2 suicides at major institutions, star athletes, both at Stanford and at University of Wisconsin-Madison. They were from 2 towns close to the one that I moved here from California to. And I hope that our athletics program is keeping an eye on the mental health of our athletes, especially those who are excelling, because there is a lot of pressure on them to really continue to excel. So I hope that they do have the mental counseling that they need if the issue arises. Thank you.
I appreciate that and agree with that. And we are focusing assets on suicidal ideation, and even among unbelievable star athletes who have so much immense pressure on them. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for that, Senator King. Any questions on Zoom?
Yes, we have 3 questions. Can I ask Senator Gilberto Lopez to unmute?
Hi, Dr. Crow. My question is about COVID-19 testing. How
Yes.
long will that continue? And what are the plans for the future of testing?
At the moment, we have no plans to do away with the testing so long as the virus remains active. I don't know if we'll exactly keep implementing it the way that we're implementing it, but we have no plans to do away with it. The state has eliminated their investment in all testing activities that the public were investing in. And so almost everyone within the university community has insurance that covers the testing, and then those that don't will cover the cost of the testing. So that's sort of where we're headed. So.
Second question comes from Senator Rachel Finley. Please unmute.
How does the university plan to address the financial impact that the fact that the cost of local housing has doubled since 2020 has had, especially on junior faculty?
Right. So in my earlier comments, well, first, we recognize that, we see that we're moving resources into the salary pools. We're working hard on retention offers. We're looking at optionalities for faculty housing, graduate student housing, you know, all those kinds of things. None of those can be solved immediately. The market conditions have altered. We're looking at all of that and trying to figure out how we deal with that. At the same time, our largest number of our students are from inside the state, and we're trying to keep their cost of attending the university as low as possible. So these things all work together, but I understand the issue. We're working on the issue. We're working on the issue from a number of different angles. And I agree that it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Final question from Senator Vanita Hawthorne James. Please unmute.
Good afternoon, Dr. Crow. Appreciate the time you spent with us today. So I love that the expansion plans for the West Campus and the Polytechnic Campus Not to be greedy, because I know we just opened up officially the Thunderbird, Global Skill Management. Are there any other plans for expansion on downtown? I know that that's a little bit more limited real estate, but just wondering.
There are, we're working on a project that we can't talk about yet, which would be a major. We're working on thinking about what to do with what we call the Mercado site, where the old Mercado facility is located. We're thinking about, well, we are working on what we call the Wexford 2 building. Wexford 1 is up and already operational with a number of university assets in it. So now we're able to go to our private sector partner and think through what it would take to get Wexford 2 going. So we're looking at that. I would say that there's no slowdown in downtown Phoenix. Mayor Gallego and I have a ongoing standing meeting in which we talk about where we're going. We are going to be including some concepts in the 2023 bond election for the city of Phoenix. And so we're looking at that. So a number of things. So what do we do with the Mercado site? How do we get the Wexford 2 building going? That's quite a bit for and then we still have the 3rd dormitory site next to the Taylor Place dormitories, even though the Fusion at First site has gone up and is now occupied. So we have all of that's in the planning motion right now. And for those of you that haven't been to the Thunderbird site, the new Thunderbird School of Global Management, which you mentioned, it's a fantastic facility, fantastic site, fantastically wedded together architecturally with the Buse Center for Law and Society and the Sandra Day O'Connor Law School. They're all kind of connected. And so that came out better than I had hoped that it would. Of course, you can't know that until you see it. They just tell you that it's going to happen and then it does or it doesn't. So
I think that concludes the questions that we have.
okay.
President Crow, I want to thank you. We recognize that the demands on your time are significant, and we appreciate your skillful leadership of the university and the impressive continued advancements that we make.
All I can say is so far.
We'll
right,
stay
thank you.
tuned. Thank you. All right, moving on with our agenda. Let's see, we don't have any other special guests today, so we will move on to agenda item number 8. Unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. So advancing to number 9, we can begin new business with our first reads from CAPC. To prepare you for motions, we will begin acting on in our next meeting, which will be Senate meeting number 1 in the fall 2022 semester. As a reminder, these items are for informational purposes only. Although senators may seek clarification, full discussion on these motions is reserved for our next meeting. I'll now hand it over to Denise.
Thank you, Samin. Senators, if you'll please note the 7 information items in the appendix of your agenda. These items will be considered by CAPC, but do not return to the Senate. In addition, CAPC will be reviewing 2 requests, motion 2022-59, a request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Social Transformation for the establishment of a graduate certificate, American Studies. Motion 2022-60, request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, School of Arts, Media and Engineering for the name change of a graduate degree from MS in Digital Culture to MS in Media Arts and Sciences. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this upcoming proposal, please contact Denise, President Pagan, or the Senate office before the CAPC meeting, which will take place this Thursday, April 28th. Moving on, we have several second reads and action items today, beginning with new course proposals that were distributed via email on April 12th. These proposals will be handled in gross. As a point of information, MAS 532 Health, Gender, and Body was removed from the list of course proposals due to some questions that need to be addressed. So it will not be voted on today. Does anyone wish to remove any of the other new course proposals from the list? Hearing none, we will vote on these courses.
The poll should be in front of you. Please cast your vote. Few more seconds. Okay, we're ending the poll. The motion passes with 100 votes, 99%.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see. CAPSI has reviewed and requested several motions related to curriculum and program changes. These motions are brought to you engrossed for your consideration. Denise?
Thank you. All right. I have put these in a different kind of order to make it quicker, hopefully less boring. So we will start with 4 requests from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. Request all from the Division of Teacher Preparation. One is for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, early childhood special education. Another is for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BAE, in early childhood education. A third is for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BAE, in elementary multilingual education. And the fourth is for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BAE, in physical education. We also have 3 requests that we reviewed. This comes from the Thunderbird School of Global Management. One request is for the establishment of a graduate degree, DPP, in global leadership and management. If you can change the slide on there, Maria, thank you. The second request is for the establishment of a graduate degree, MLM, in leadership and management. And the third is for a name change of a graduate certificate from global management to global management, entrepreneurship, and innovation. We have 3 requests that we considered, and we passed: New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. So the first is a request from the School of Mathematical and Natural Sciences for the establishment of a graduate certificate, biological data science. We also have a request from the School of Humanities, Arts, and Cultural Studies from the College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences for the name change of an undergraduate degree from BS in Women and Gender Studies to BS in Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. And the third is a request from the School of Humanities, Arts, and Cultural Studies for the name change of an undergraduate certificate from Women and Gender Studies to Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. Next, we have 2 requests from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in military studies. And the second is for a name change of an undergraduate degree from BA in History of Science, Ideas, and Innovation to BA in History of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Next, we have 4 requests from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. First, from the School of Transborder Studies for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Latino Politics and Policy. Next, from the School of Social Transformation for the name change of an undergraduate degree from BA in Women and Gender Studies to BA in Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. We also have a request from the School of Social Transformation for the name change of an undergraduate certificate from Women and Gender Studies to Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. And finally, we have from the School of Social Transformation for the name change of a graduate degree from MA in Women and Gender Studies to MA in Gender, Women, and Sexuality Studies. We have 1 request from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, Herberger Institute for Design and Arts, for the establishment of a graduate degree, MA in Narrative and Emerging Media. WP Carey School of Business brings us 2 requests, both from the School of Accountancy. One for the name change of a graduate degree from MACC in Accounting to MACC in Accountancy and Data Analytics. The second for the name change of a graduate degree from MTax in taxation to MTax in taxation and data analytics. And finally, we have the request from the College of Global Futures for the establishment of a new academic unit, the School of Ocean Futures. So we considered all of these. We as CAPC passed these, and we now bring these to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. It seems that just about every college was represented in those motions. Is there a request for removal of any of these motions for further discussion?
There isn't, but I'm Lisa Anderson. I'm a representative. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the Graduate College. And I have a note about the DPP and Thunderbird. And that note is that the credit hours have been reduced to 60 based on a new policy that was approved by the provost to allow professional doctorates to have a minimum 60 credit hours. We did research across different professional doctorates, and that seems to be, there's some that have fewer, but that seemed to be a good starting place. So we discussed with Thunderbird, and they agreed to have that degree, the credit hours for that degree requirement to be 60. So just as an update.
Thank you very much for that update. I don't believe that that will have an impact on our vote. I'll defer here to our Secretary Vandermeer.
I think Denise has to decide, she could speak for CAPC
Okay.
as to whether or not she thinks that changes in any substantive way CAPC's approach to this.
Denise, based on the update that we heard and the reduction in the total number of credit hours to 60 from the proposal from the Thunderbird School for their graduate program, will that impact our ability to vote?
No,
Okay, very
everything
good.
is fine.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So at this point, then, we will go ahead and vote on gross on these motions.
Okay, the vote is open. This is the motion per CAPC. Do you approve of the CAPC motion in gross as read on April 25th, 2022? Okay, we're closing the poll. And the motion passes with 95 votes, 96%.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to other motions in which changes to the bylaw 2, section 8A, Curriculum and Academic Programs Committee will be discussed. Denise, I will call on you at this time for your motion.
Okay. By direction of the Curriculum and Academic Programs Committee, I move the adoption of the bylaws revision motion 2022-37.
Because this motion comes from committee, it does not require a second. This motion will be handled seriatim in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Section 28. Each revision will be read in its entirety and be up for discussion by senators. The question is on the adoption of the proposed bylaws revision. We will begin with Section 8A1, membership. Denise?
Thank you. All right, 8A1 membership. A, we reformatted numbering for ease of reading, which is a perfecting change, but we also have some substantive changes. 1A1, each college or school shall have one member who has been elected or appointed. We inserted that, depending on the unit bylaws. So we added to school and we adjusted how members are added to CAPC because it varies by unit. Some are elected and some are appointed. Number 2, voting members must be tenured or tenure eligible faculty, fixed term faculty with multi-year or rolling multi-year status, or academic professionals with continuing status, and may not hold a primary administrative position of director or higher at the time of election or appointment. We changed the wording of the faculty role and status to align with the Senate Constitution and the ACD manual. So that's what that change is. Number 3, CAPC members who become administrators or directors during the CAPC term may continue to serve out their term of office, but will recuse themselves from any vote related to their unit. That was added for clarity and process for CAPC faculty who become administrators during their CAPC term. There was no change in 8A1B, except we reformatted it and have a little capitalization there, perfecting change. 8A1C, we also reformatted, and we updated wording to reflect election and appointment. So the length of term, the term of the elected appointed members shall be 2 years with no limit on consecutive terms served. It is recommended that approximately 1/2 of the elected appointed members be replaced each year. And finally, 8A1D codified a tradition related to removal of CAPC members. So D is an insertion removal. Unless excused, CAPC members shall attend each CAPC meeting or provide a substitute if unable to attend. 2 consecutive absences without cause will result in that unit seat being vacated and a request for a new representative. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Is there any question on section 8A1? Denise will now read section 8.2.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Send it to Maria. I don't know if she saw it.
Okay. Oh, I see. Senator Sharp. Yes, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
I had a question on the position of director. Is that intended to be the director of the school or college? Or would it be inclusive of a director of, say, like an office or a center underneath the school or college?
That's a good question, or let's say director of an academic unit. Denise, do you have any clarification that you can provide?
Which one exactly are we looking at? Which number?
If you scroll up, it says may not hold a primary administrative position of director or higher.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so is that director of the school or college?
it could
or
be.
dean, or it might, yeah.
Yeah, CAPC is supposed to be faculty, but occasionally some of our faculty do get promoted to a director position. There's all different levels of directors at the university. Some are directors of graduate programs just within their units,
Right.
and it becomes an administrative position. And as you see from the previous bylaw, if you have an administrative position of director or higher, and again, it's not clarified, but it's there, then they cannot be voting for things.
Okay.
Okay, does that help?
Well, yeah, just because we have offices and centers that are more like research offices and centers. I mean, obviously that's
Yes.
not part of the changes, but it just kind of.
No, and some of those people have moved to directors, and those people, we've had to make it so they still want to stay in CAPC for the rest of the year. But technically, they're not allowed to vote.
Thank you.
Secretary Vandermeer.
A provision in the Constitution adopted last year makes explicit that you can't serve in the Senate if you hold a administrative position of 50% or more. So that's a general principle used here for faculty governance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see we have a question or a comment from Senator Hansen.
Yeah, could you scroll up? I think it was 1A2. Can you explain what you mean when you say fixed term faculty with multi-year or rolling multi-year status, or academic professionals with continuing status? Really, what is continuing status in this?
This terminology comes directly from the ACD manual. So all we're doing is using the same terminology. It's not really changing anything for us, except that it just, again, matches what's in the ACD manual. These bylaws haven't been changed in decades.
Okay, well, do we know how the ACD manual defines
Well,
academic professionals with continuing status?
that is a different question. That's kind of unrelated to the change in the bylaws here, but that would be a good thing. Phil, did you want to talk about that? Because you guys worked on the,
Well, it's a standard category that's been used for a long time, that basically it's sort of a quasi tenure for academic professionals. And I was going to ask Deb Clark to talk about it, but she nodded, so I'll take that as okay.
Right, thank you for that. Moving on, is there any discussion on, Denise, did you read section 8 too?
not yet.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so we don't have anybody that wants to make any amendments to that, to the bylaws that I've read. Then we will go to the next one, section 8.2. We reformatted it and make number 1, we turned into a 2 because it was a mistake. So we corrected the numbering. Also, 8A2A3, we added an example for clarity. Academic policies affecting more than one college or school, e.g. academic integrity policies, grading policies, including changes in existing programs. And then 8A2B5, we added the word other to cover non-research proposals that might affect all faculty. So research or other proposals affecting curricula. 8A2B6, we updated, again, wording to match current terms. Before it said extended education, people aren't using that anymore. So we changed it to distance learning, continuing education, and online education. That does it for the changes in section 8.A.2.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on section 8.2? No, okay. Denise, will you now please read section 8.3?
Right, this is the last one. Under relationships, we removed University Curriculum Advisory Committee because that committee no longer exists. We don't know what that committee was or where it is, but it's gone. So it now reads, the chair of the CAPC is a member of the executive committee and an ex officio member of the Honors Advisory Council. That is the only change to that particular bylaw. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, Denise. We have reviewed and discussed all of the changes in the CAPC bylaws. The floor is now open for discussion, debate, amendments for the entire document. Any questions or any discussion at this time? Hearing none, we will now vote on motion 2022-37, revision of CAPC bylaws.
Okay, the vote is in front of you. I will share the screen. Couple of more seconds. Closing the poll. The motion passes with 95 votes, which is 96%.
Thank you, Maria. Motion 2022-37 has passed with the required 2/3 vote, and the bylaw goes into immediate effect. Thank you, everybody. We will now move on to agenda item number 10, Senate Committee Reports. We have no further motions or resolutions. And now as we move into our final committee reports, we have 8 committee reports. I ask committee chairs and those presenting to please limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure does not have a report, so we will begin with Paul Carisi and the Committee on Committees.
Thank you very much. The committee was generally successful this year in the fall under Chris Kaiselka's chairmanship. And in that was staffing the standing committees for the Senate. and in the spring cycle of work, committee's main task is to recruit nominees for the academic assembly elections for campus president-elect on the 4 campuses, for the 2 faculty grievance committees, the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee and the Governance Grievance Committee, and for the Academic Professional Grievance Committee. Our final result in terms of forming the ballots was that all the vacant positions had ballot candidates, except we couldn't quite rustle up some representation from the Poly campus on the faculty grievance committees. I'd like to thank the Senate staffers, Maria and Elzira. On behalf of the committee, they provided crucial institutional memory and support on all of the scheduling and logistical and sequence issues. We also got great support from Senate President Eduardo Pagan. 2 final notes, as has already been noted, the election is open until April 27th at 5 p.m. And I encourage all senators to send forward messages to your units about participating in the election. And second, the general comment that the committee did have to work pretty hard to rustle up candidates for various committee positions, which I'm told is not an unusual occurrence. So perhaps the general recommendation is to encourage all senators to regularly be informing your units of the work of the Senate, of the importance of shared governance all throughout the year, so that when it comes time to rustle up people to stand for elections, we can get strong ballot representation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Carisi. Okay, now we will hear the end of year report for CAPSI from Denise Bodman.
Hello again.
Long time no see.
I know. I'm going to try to do this in under a minute and a half. All right. We had 81 curricular proposals that went before the Curriculum and Academic Program Committee this past year. I compared them from 2021 to 2022. So we had 32 establishments this past year compared to 41 earlier. In terms of disestablishments, we had 30 disestablishments compared to 13 the academic year before. Name changes, we had 18 name changes compared to 12 the year before. And miscellaneous proposals, we had 1 change of academic organization code compared to 2 changes the year before, but the total was 81. So that's a lot. That was 20% increase. I'd like to thank all my CAPSI members. I have the greatest team. I also want to thank Phyllis Lucy, who officially retired from serving as CAPSI liaison. She's been doing it for decades. And welcome Katie Jensen Ord, our new CAPSI liaison with the Provost Office. And I'd like to thank you, Maria and Elzira and the entire Senate for sitting through me. Thank you.
Terrific. And that was in record time. I think you were just at a minute and a half. Nice job. Okay, next we will move to the Digitally Enhanced Teaching and Learning Committee. We will hear the report from Lisa Kammerlocker and Penny Dolan. Oh, Lisa's going to provide the report. Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. This is Digitally Enhanced Teaching and Learning. Very quickly want to thank Penny for co-chairing this year because she's rolling off for very good reasons to be president of the Senate next year. Moving on, this is our, to the next slide. This is our team. We have quite a few ex officio members, and they have been very important in the last couple of years to help us stay in tune with various issues across the institution and also provide us with information that's important to communicate with you. Moving right along. So I would say our primary initiatives are around communicating on learning technologies. Penny came up with the idea of Tech Talks this year. We've had 3 on the Senate dashboard this spring: Debbie Davis Strong, Rob Gray, and Steve Salick. And you can go to the dashboard to look at the ways in which they are using these technologies. If I could go back to the previous slide. We also partnered, as I said before, with especially Kyle Bowen from UTO, head of learning experience, those updates on Question Pro and Qualtrics, and then Media Amp, and that transition to Media Plus. And then academic integrity seems to consistently be an issue that we are looking at. Moving to the next slide, looking to next year, we're finding that increasingly faculty are wanting some kind of format, some kind of mechanism for engaging in the decision-making on teaching and learning technologies. We're going to be investigating that next year. Also, it's evident that faculty especially are interested in peer-to-peer training opportunities. So we'll be working on aspects of that. And finally, an area that's come up in kind of a slight extension of the teaching and learning is looking at some research, computing and data security issues. There's some questions around beyond trust jump client, and there just seems to be some issues around secure data storage for the institution when it comes to keeping the data related to vulnerable populations safe, while keeping a computer station that doesn't have a jump client on it. How's that? Okay, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us this year, and we look forward to next year.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your leadership, Lisa and Penny, on that committee. I think the tech talks have been a wonderful addition to the dashboard. Our next committee report is from the Personnel Committee. I think Senator George Justice will provide that report.
We have an update, actually. We're going to have Professor Swanson give the report on George's behalf.
Thank you. And you may need to unmute, Senator Swanson.
Apologies, sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm Jody Swanson. I'm going to be reading George's year-end report that he provided me. This year's work on the Personnel Committee largely consisted of continuing business related to support for non-tenure eligible faculty and new business related to student evaluation of teaching. So a year ago, the Personnel Committee sent a substantial letter to Provost Searle and then incoming Provost Gonzalez asking for the office to answer a number of questions related to the professional situation of faculty with clinical ranks and who are instructors, lecturers, or research professors. We've been assured that the Provost Office, which of course for good reason has been very preoccupied with the university's successful response to the pandemic, this office continues to work on a response to the problems the committee had outlined in its letter. We will be having one more meeting this year to discuss concerns and to compile additional questions for the Provost Office. And then with regard to student evaluation of teaching, we requested and have received a set of concerns from a few departments around campus. We're working with the Student Faculty Committee, chaired this year by Scott Day, on this matter. We've requested representation on the Provost Office current revamping of the teaching evaluations on campus. But again, we're waiting to hear if we'll be able to participate or if we have to conduct a Senate-focused investigation into alternatives to the current situation. Particular concern has been relayed by women faculty and faculty of color, as well as by, again, instructors, lecturers, and clinical faculty who in some cases feel that their annual contracts hang by the thread of student evaluations perceived to be positive. Personnel Committee looks forward to continuing work on both of these issues next year, as well as other matters of importance to the role of faculty at ASU. And this is respectfully submitted on behalf of the University Senate Personnel Committee by George Justice.
Thank you very much, Senator Swanson, for that report. Next, we will move to the Research and Creative Activities Committee. Senator Davies.
Yes, hello, thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
So, thank you. So this year we concentrated on producing guidance for using data that might be of a legal origin or certainly questionable origin. And we actually finished this and we're very delighted. So the reason for this is that in 2018, Mark Searle, who was then the provost, came across a situation where a young faculty member, I should say a junior faculty member, wanted to use some illegally obtained data and was prevented from using that data in research by the university. And that didn't seem very satisfactory. So he suggested that a Senate committee looks at the issue. So we had many discussions as a committee last year and this year. And we also met with everyone who might be interested, the Office of General Counsel, Provost Office. Provost Office, very, very helpful. Knowledge Enterprise, Academic Integrity Office, and of course we spoke with the Senate President. We have now developed a flowchart. Can we go to the next slide, please? A flowchart for use if someone is wanting to use illegally obtained data. And some of the steps in the flowchart are obvious, go through IRB. And if you're in any doubt of the legality, of course, go through the Office of the General Counsel. And that was all well and good, but the sticking point is what happens right at the end if there's something that doesn't really concern the IRB, such as, you know, company data, and it's not going to have any legal consequences. Is it ethically okay to use it? So we had to figure out who would be on this particular review committee, and we've come up with a three-person committee, someone from the Provost's Office, from Knowledge Enterprise, and also from the University Senate. And we've had great support from the Provost's Office in developing this idea of the three-person committee. So now what our work will go in the annual Senate report to the Provost, and hopefully, can't say on her behalf, but hopefully she will accept our findings and maybe be able to promote this to faculty, because we think it would be very beneficial for faculty wanting to use such data to have some guidance. And that's been the work of our committee.
Thank you very much, Senator Davies. The flowchart is impressive, and I do think that it could be a very useful guide for faculty in being able to determine some of the issues surrounding the use of data that could potentially be illegally obtained. I appreciate the work of the committee.
And I just want to say thank you to all the committee members. They were just fantastic and everyone was so helpful.
We have a question. I believe it is for the Research and Creative Activities Committee related to the report.
Correct. Senator Sharp.
I thank you for your report. I have a question because as an Indigenous person, it does raise concern to me, especially in terms of ancestral remains or archaeological type of research. Was this type of research ever discussed in the development of this flow chart, or is there a certain type of data that this is really focusing on?
This, what you are mentioning would certainly be able to be used with this flowchart. So it was mentioned very casually. In fact, I'm doing a research project now with Indigenous people, and I'm very aware of the issues. But at the end of the day, this is a flowchart which ends up with a committee to look at the ethics of using data if the General Counsel and if the IRB have said that from their point of view, it's okay. I mean, you could put a refinement in it somewhere along the line that for Indigenous people, I know that they have sometimes their own IRB, say Navajo Nation, but I don't think that's necessary at the moment because people will be directed to that from the IRB, the regular IRB. And in any case, if they started to use this sort of data, when they get down to this little committee, which the committee would say, well, no, have you actually asked the Indigenous people?
Yeah, we do have protections for Indigenous, types of research, and I think that's probably where it would get vetted. But I just wanted to, just curious about that, how those two are linked. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a report from the Student Faculty Policy Committee, and the chair of that committee is Senator Scott Day.
Hey, good afternoon, Senators. This will be quick because we've talked about this before. I'd like to thank the committee, obviously, for all the work they have done. We seem to have all issues that are related some way, some form, some fashion with the provost office, which are sometimes tricky or touchy issues. So next slide, and I'll walk you through those. We've already talked about with the policy personnel committee with regards to the student evaluations. It's an ongoing thing, and we're not letting it go. And it's got to be addressed. It's very important. Secondly, one of the things we talked about before is the issue that happened in the multicultural communities of excellent locations. And we just want an ear more than anything. And again, as I said earlier this year, my biggest fear is because of that one incident is that it's a chilling effect on students even using the locations. So we're going to keep an eye on that as well. The academic integrity procedures keeps a growing thing. Last year we talked about it in terms of the officers. This year we talked about it in terms of procedures and fairness and consistency. And then what popped up because of what's the pandemic over the last couple of years is all the stuff that you can find online through our hard work and energy. And we're wondering if that's any kind of intellectual property issue. So we're pushing forward with that next year as well. We didn't even get to the issue of what happens on the standardized template, a syllabus template, in terms of there's lots of policies and procedures there. And do we really need to add some links for student wellness, specifically on healthcare? So we're looking into that, and we'll continue with that next year. And then finally, as has been discussed earlier today, there's going to be a ton of issues, especially with regards to not only housing, but also childcare when it comes to graduate students, and we want to support the graduate students as much as possible. It has been indeed a pleasure. This is my second year as chair, and this is my last year as a senator. I wish you all, and I hope to see you sometime on the campus. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Senator Day, and for your leadership of the Student Faculty Policy Committee for the last 2 years. Some significant work has been accomplished in that committee. We'll next move to the committee report from the University Services and Facilities Committee from Senator Chad Kennedy.
Hi there. So we actually did do a little bit of an update on the last meeting. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide real quick. So we have 3 RFCs that we started this year and that we're actually going to be continuing into next year. 205 really was where we're trying to establish what is our relationship with our committee, with the admin office of university facilities. And so we're basically trying to get that relationship up and running so that there's a feedback mechanism for student, staff, and faculty in addition to their liaison system. RFC 2021 is also ongoing. This is where we're looking at faculty and staff accommodations, that process, and how that gets affected, and maybe some ways we can optimize and improve that system. So that will be ongoing in addition to next year. A newer one, RFC 228. This is where we're looking at, there was an issue concerning cheating rings on Canvas between students, where when they have access to the list of other students and can communicate with them, they were actively looking at creating an offsite or using another technology system where they can communicate and share work and do things that were not monitored or not available. So an initial look at that was to see if there was a way we can change some settings in Canvas so that we can modify that. So that's one route we're looking at. We may need to look at working with the Students and Faculty Policy Committee as well to see if there's something on that end. So we go to the next slide. So, and this one just came to us in our last meeting, so it isn't a formal RFC yet, and we're still debating whether that's something that is a purview for our committee or another committee. But we had a presentation from one of the other senators that brought to us the Graduate and Professional Student Association. They passed some ideas and goals that they would like to see, particularly in the family-friendly space and resource planning. Some of the things they would like to see is drop-in childcare, planning the use of flexible family space, long-term facilities planning that considers these types of things. So this is actually an item for next year. So keep up to date. We'll talk about it probably next year, and that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that report, Senator Kennedy. And now we come to our last committee report for the Library Liaison Committee, which will be given by Senator Claudia Villegas Silva.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to need just the slides 4, 5, and 6, if you don't mind. And I will just quickly go through what I have to say. And if you could just go through those 3, because it just really represents where we are in terms of numbers. So it would be the one before, and the one before that, and the one before that. So first, I'd like to start by thanking everybody. This is my first time chairing. So our members are Janice Hermer, Tina Saber, Chad Haynes, and Steve Graham, and also Jim O'Donnell with our library committee, or in the library. Our 3 topics of discussion all year and we'll be moving forward for next year are open access, open science, and the budget. Open access is a need to provide resources across the university and all programs. Open science includes the social sciences, math, data, traditional sciences, and health science. And last but not least, and what you're seeing is the budget and what to consider. So since 2015, the university enrollment has increased more than 50%. Since 2015, university funded research has increased more than 50%. At the same time, new programs in a wide range of fields, area approved each year. As ASU adds new programs, the library has not been provided budget enhancements to support the new programs. And fourth, in this time, the collections budget has remained flat, except for annual adjustment that covers about half of the year-to-year inflation, and therefore requires that resources are cut each year. So, in short, our short-term goals, considering these 3, are to create a plan of action to support the needs of the library and the university. Long-term goal, build a clear proposal to the Senate with recommendations for producing solutions about specific areas where the library can be supported. And I would like to end with the good note or good news. The provost, Nancy Gonzalez, is now aware of the serious need to support the library services and recognizes need for further discussion. So our hope is that we can all align with a strong future plan, again, to support the library. And I think that is it. So thank you. Enjoy your summer break.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to all of the Senate committees for these reports and for the work that each of these committees has done during the course of this academic year. At this time, we will move to the open forum section of the agenda. The floor is now open for any announcements, issues, or general questions. Okay, all right. Everyone is quiet out there. I think we're all just anxious to get this spring semester wrapped up. All right, now we will move on to agenda item number 12, passing of the gavel. We have reached this portion of the meeting where the current Senate president passes the gavel to the incoming president. Although I'm not the current Senate president, on behalf of President Eduardo Pagan, it is my honor and pleasure to pass the gavel to my friend and former UAC colleague from the Polytechnic campus, Penny Ann Dolan. Penny, you can now adjourn this meeting.
Well, all I want to say is that I've been a part of the ASU family for a very long time, and I consider it an honor and a privilege to have been elected to this position. I want to thank all of those who are continuing on in the Senate. I look forward to working with you, and thank you so much to those that are rolling off, so to speak, for this year. And it's been a long meeting and a long semester, and so I want to wish everybody a very, very happy summer. And I have an official duty to do here, so I am going to hereby adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.